We might as well just start now.
Welcome to the JG Sports Network podcast. I'm Gamer X. This is Kenny, Eric, Bo, and wrestler named Skidz. Welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here.
Awesome. So we had a lot of questions that we were going to ask you, along with a few things if you had any questions as well. Kenny, I'm going to let you start first.
All right. So, first question, number one. Welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have you here.
Ben's loading in, by the way.
Thank
There he is.
you guys for having me.
Oh, he's here. Okay, good.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Perfect.
Doesn't
All right. So,
sorry.
oh, you're good. All right. So, first question, I will go ahead and ask for you. How did you become a wrestler? Like, what got you started?
So actually, I was back in 2005. So told you guys I'm old. I was out eating on Sunday, and there's a wrestler. Sure if you get name is Brandon Groom, and he was out. Him and his wife were out eating dinner, and I just approached him and started talking to him, and actually started training with him in a town called Muskogee.
Can Bo mute himself real quick, please?
The question I do have for you though is when it comes to wrestling, is there any have you ever thought about wrestling in the WWE or AEW, any big promotion one day in the future?
I would absolutely love to. Like I don't think like I'm bad, but I don't think that I'm good enough to ever be WWE or AEW. Although I always strive for it. I always, in training, in every match that I have, I always strive to be better and to reach that because that is the ultimate goal. I mean, if anybody in the business tells you that they're not in it to make AEW or WWE or something like that, they're lying.
Exactly. Ren, Bo, Eric, do y'all have a question as well for Mr. Skidz over here?
Yeah. So
Oh, his thing's lagging like real bad. What the fuck?
Yeah, I can't.
Ren, your mic is lagging badly. We can't hear you well.
like the most hardest thing that
Oh God,
you've known while starting in this.
Ren, just try to type in chat real quick. See if that helps.
We do have the chat part as well. So if you have to ask a question in chat too, since the stuff's lagging, if you have to type it, you can as well.
My bad.
Just type.
Y'all can hear me.
There
now?
we go. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, now we can.
Now ask your question again. Oh my fucking God!
It was good, and then it stopped.
So, what is the hardest part of
there we go.
being a wrestler? Is it working now?
Yep.
Is it working now? Okay.
I can hear it.
So what?
So his question is, what's the hardest part about being a wrestler? Is his question.
What is the hardest part about being a? It's still same thing.
Yep.
So
yeah, that was
the
it.
hardest
That was
part.
his...
If I was the hardest part about being a wrestler, that was the question.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, the hardest part was just trying to gain the experience and things like that. Probably the hardest thing now for me is just the physical toll it takes on my body because I'm 38 years old. I started doing this when I was 18. So, of course I took about a 10, 11 year period off. So I've only been doing it again for about a year. So the physical toll it takes on my body is probably the hardest thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in real quick, and I got a question I want to ask real quick. In your career, have you ever been injured at all yet?
Yes, actually I have, and that believe it or not. So when I wrestled the first time, I wrestled from 2005 to 2011, and I never ever was hurt. But this time, and I don't know if you guys can really see, I'm going to try to adjust my camera just a little bit. This part of my shoulder is slightly off from the other one. There is, in March of this year, I was wrestling a match and I took a clothesline, and when I hit the mat, my shoulder separated.
Oh.
And I don't know if you can see that nasty looking knot, but that's always, they said it. They
Oh
said
yeah,
it would
I
always
can't
be
see
there.
it.
I can too.
Oh wow. Wow.
I thought it broke because, like I said, I'd never experienced anything like that before. Never broken a bone.
Yeah.
It popped extremely loud, and I couldn't lift my arm off the mat, so I thought it was broken. So.
Oh no.
Okay, Eric, Bo, y'all's turn.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. So I think I'll let Eric go first for a question. So Eric, you got a question you want to ask him?
I do. How when working, as a wrestler, you get exposed to a lot of heat, a lot of crowd heat. So what I was wondering is, how do you deal with it? How do you deal with those types of people that are?
So.
Go ahead.
So I like it. No, I was just gonna say I like it. Because most of my career I've been a heel. I've actually, because of this injury, I was a champion for the Majestic Championship Wrestling, Oscar's company. I had to relinquish my title, and somebody jumped me, legitimately jumped me. It was another wrestler and beat me up while I was injured, and so I, you know, I turned baby, and I, try to get the crowd to love me now. But no, when they hate me, it's okay because it's usually rightfully deserved. Because pardon my language, but I can be an asshole sometimes. So.
Bo, do you have a question now too? There's Anthony too. What's up, bro? Let him unmute his mic. He's older than you are. Just kidding.
What is it? Yeah. Let's see. Have you done any refereeing before?
Refereeing, yeah. My first time refereeing actually was in McAllister for Richard Bedford at NCWO. I had never done it before, and that's a completely different experience. And I tell you what, after doing it for that first time, I have a whole new respect for everybody that puts on those stripes, because all the years I always thought, they're just expendable. No, those are some of the hardest working people in the business, are the referees. That's man, that's a very underappreciated job right there.
No, I know. She might have a question too for the rest of the thing. Oh, she has one, I guess. That she doesn't have one at the moment. So when I've seen a post on Facebook about you and Neshoba. Have y'all had a match before? And if not, would you want to fight Neshoba at all?
So Neshoba is very tough. We've actually had, I guess, one. We've been in the ring a few times. Only one of them was an actual match. It was a company called Empire Pro Wrestling, based out of Oklahoma City. But no, in Holdenville, when Neshoba was the 24/7 on-call champion for Majestic, I hid underneath the ring, and he came out and cut a promo, and I slid out the other side and rolled him up and won the title from him, and took off running. But he is a very, very tough opponent. And I, honestly can't wait to see where he goes in his career, because I know he reminds me, I don't know if me being older, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with an old wrestler by the name of Wahoo McDaniel.
I don't know.
He was a native. He was a native wrestler like Neshoba. He was a chief, wore the big headdress and stuff like that. Neshoba reminds me a lot of that guy. So I think he's going to go pretty far. So yes, to answer your question, we have had one match. Actually, I have beaten him twice for the 24/7 on-call championship. The first time a roll up, the second time he beat me, and I turned around. Well, I guess I rolled him up twice, because I turned around and rolled him up the second time too. So
That 24/7 championship's got to
so,
be the one championship that can be won by anybody at any time. So you must have been lucky to win that multiple times.
So I
have right now, I hold the record. Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'll wait.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I hold the record right now for winning Majestic's 24/7 one call title the most. I've won it 6 times. And I think Neshoba maybe a close second because he's won it 2 or 3 times. So
it's impressive. I believe Ren has a question he wanted to ask. So if you ever look at chat real quick for him to type his question. Okay. Ren, if you want to go ahead and ask it, go ahead.
Yes, let me pull that.
And if anybody has any questions and they don't want to turn on their mic, just send a list of questions and we'll ask, and y'all can ask them and we'll just read through them as well.
Yeah.
Like basically this is like a Q&A interview as well. So
technically, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Let the questions roll in. It gives this
the question is, what is the most interesting highlight of your career so far?
Honestly, I would probably say wrestling. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He wrestles now currently. He just wrestled EC3 not very long ago, but there's a guy by the name of Leo Fox.
I've heard of him.
And I got to wrestle him. And that is honestly one of the bigger highlights of my career. That guy is phenomenal. One of the nicest guys, but I tell you what, he is a brick house. He is all there. Like, I mean, I felt every punch, every hit. I felt it all. So, but yeah, that's definitely been a highlight of my career.
Here's another question. What places around the world have you wrestled, and what place would you love to wrestle the most in your career before you eventually retire?
So I've never wrestled outside of the United States. So I've wrestled Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas. I will be making my Texas wrestling debut on October the 14th. To be honest, I would like to either go somewhere in the UK and either wrestle one match or go to Japan and wrestle one match. Those are the 2 main goals. I know like Mexico is pretty cool and stuff like that, but for me, Japan and the UK would be 2 places that I would love to work.
Okay, so Eric has a question. So go ahead and type it, Eric, or ask it.
Yeah, you can ask it with your mic, or you can do whatever you need to.
Yep.
All right. So what part of Arkansas did you wrestle in?
So the first time I wrestled, it was oh gosh, I don't remember the town, but it's an hour and a half past Fort Smith. The last time I wrestled, though, I did actually just wrestle in Fort Smith earlier this year at the Fort Smith Comic-Con. And that was a first. That was pretty fun. Getting to meet all the people and stuff like that, get to see the different people come in and watch the show and stuff. So Fort Smith, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember the other town.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just wondering because I'm from here, so.
We may have another guest joining in just a few minutes.
All right. So Okay. So I will go ahead and let Ren ask this question, and I'll ask my question after. So Ren, go ahead and ask what your question was.
Yeah, Oscar should be joining very soon. He said he will join in just a little bit, or he may join in a little bit.
All right. So while Ren's typing his question, I'll go ahead and ask mine. Ren, so for you, did you have like an inspiration, like what you became of a wrestler? Like, did you watch like WWE growing up as a kid, or like what got you started? Like,
I did.
What made you become? Bo,
So
Mike.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
When I was 3 years old, that's my first memory of like watching wrestling with my grandma, and of course, like a lot of people, I became a big fan of Hulk Hogan. That's the first guy that I could remember. And I think just being so young, I think it was just because he was so flashy, all the yellow, and he was just like this big superhero back then. But now, as a grown man and have being in the business and stuff like that, I try to take as much inspiration from Ric Flair as possible because he is, in my opinion, the greatest of all time. So.
And Ren's question for you was, what are some wrestling attires that gave you inspiration?
So in my first, and it's funny because even back then I was still a Hogan fan, but my first ever pair of tights, I fashioned them after Flair. They were like the brightest purple. They have like shiny silver stuff all over them. The stuff that I have now, I use a few different. I have a few different sets. My favorite one is they're black with these green paint splatters, and it reminded me a lot of the Nasty Boys. That's exactly when I seen it. That's exactly why I wanted the materials because I thought it reminded me of the Nasty Boys.
All right. Is there anything that you could say to any person who's trying to step into wrestling for the first time? Any advice you give to newcomers who want to do that and live their dream?
Absolutely. The best advice that I can give is never give up, stick with it because I mean, when you first start, it is going to be hard and there's going to be a lot of people trying to deter you from your goals. I had family like, you're never going to do that. You're never going to, you're never going to make it. You can't even do this and that. So my biggest thing is to stick with it. And even through, like the naysayers and even through the pain, because I mean, it's going to hurt when you start taking those bumps and the body slams and suplexes and all of that stuff. It's going to hurt and you're going to want to quit, but I would, just tough it out because the reward is worth the sacrifice.
All right. Who else has
I
got
would
a
definitely
question?
say, I would definitely say that stuff would get inspiration for me because as a young man who's the only age of 20 years old, I love racing. I don't know if you ever heard about oval track racing, but the inspiration like I need is like to never give up because it's something special. Like wrestling is something special you love doing. It's a passion and you never want to give up. So my question for that is like, if you can give like anyone an opportunity, like who would you want to face in a match? Like who is your number one person that you want to face?
So there's a kid right now, and of course I say kid because I feel like I'm old, but there's a kid based out of Missouri right now. His name, and if you guys haven't heard of him, I would suggest looking him up. His name is Austin Mulatalo, and he is, in my opinion, one of the greatest up and coming wrestlers that's out there right now. And if I could even have one match, win, lose, or draw, if I could have one match against that kid, that would be a career goal for me, I think.
I think that would be pretty much definitely a big goal for you. I think it's possible. Never give up on it,
Yes, sir.
So, does anyone else have a question they want to ask him real quick? Does Bo or Eric want to ask him? Or Ren?
Yeah, I like to ask this question.
All right, go ahead, Bo.
In one match of your history, would you like to go against the gatekeeper?
I mean, I would. I definitely would. That dude is. I can't say enough good things about that guy. I've only met him once. Super nice in person, and you couldn't ask for a better athlete, a better wrestler, and to top that off, you couldn't ask for a better person. So I absolutely would wrestle the gatekeeper. I'm sure that I would lose, but I would absolutely wrestle the gatekeeper.
So Ren has a question he wants to ask. So Ren, go ahead whenever you're ready. Now I got a little question for you, off question. Have you ever seen NASCAR before? Have you ever been like to a racing event outside of wrestling in your
So
spare time?
I've never been to one in person. I can't say no. I can't. I haven't even been to one at Muskogee. So I'm originally from Shakota, and over in Muskogee, there's that track over there. And I've never even been to anything like that. So no, sir, I have not.
Okay. So Eric says, "What was your worst wrestling experience ever in your career?"
So years ago, when I first started, one of my best friends, a guy named Mike York, me and him wrestled. We were wrestling in Kansas. We got put into a triple threat match with a 14-year-old kid that weighed probably 75 pounds. And he tried to do a move to where he basically was going to flip me over, it was almost like a flapjack.
Right.
And I tried my hardest to jump for him. And when I did, just because he was so small, I couldn't jump far enough, and I landed right on my head. And for the better part of the rest of the match, I had no idea where I was even at. So that's probably the worst experience I've had.
So I don't understand, but why would they put a 14-year-old kid against like two grown people? So Ren wants to know, what's the biggest risk you had in your career that is hard for you to do? Biggest risk you had, biggest risk.
Um, like taking a move, or does
I would.
just is that what?
I think it's in general. I think I might have read it wrong. Let me try to read it again. Hold on. What's the biggest risk you had to?
The meeting has 10. We have 10 minutes in the meeting, but if we have to, we can restart it again.
Yeah. So, what is the biggest risk you had that is hard to do in your career? I don't get that question.
He just said a move, basically, just like a
risk, okay.
A move.
Okay.
So probably a superplex. And the only reason is nothing against the guy. He was trying to take me over before I could get my legs up, and a lot of that was my fault. I couldn't get up fast enough. So I mean, with him trying to take me over and I'm trying to hold on so I can get up top. That was probably the riskiest because there's a few times I almost fell off backwards. So.
Okay. One thing so I got.
Is it okay if I ask son real quick?
Yeah, go for it. I have one more question after.
For those who don't know who the gatekeeper is, I'm going to show you something that he does to a lot of people. So I'm going to show y'all real quick of what he's done and how dangerous this man really is.
I think I've seen it before. Oh, I remember this.
The most dangerous spear I've ever seen, bigger than whatever he could do. Does any of y'all think y'all could take something that crazy and get up from it?
I don't think so.
I mean, I would. I don't really want to. I would. But yeah, no, there's a lot of power behind that. That guy is super powerful. So yeah, that's not something I really want to do, but I mean, I would.
All right, so my final question that I want to ask is, as a wrestler, how many companies have you worked for in your entire career, and how many championships have you won?
So, gosh, over 16 different companies, probably somewhere closer to 20, 25, somewhere like that. And so far, I've only won one championship, and that was the Majestic Championship Wrestling's 24/7 on-call champion. So I do have some other matches coming up pretty soon, so hopefully I can add some more gold to that. But
so in your entire career that you've done for 16 years, you've won one championship. That's it?
that's it. Yes, sir.
Wow.
Eric just asked.
Wow.
So like yeah, yeah.
You go ahead, and then I'll say what Eric was saying. You go ahead.
I mean,
Oh no,
wow.
I
I'm
was just going to
shocked.
say that. Yeah. So the first time, like I said, I only wrestled for I think it was like 6 years, and then I was out for about a decade. So that first go around, I stole a title. I was in a feud for quite a long time with a guy called the Canadian Red Devil, and I had stole his title and was quite delusional that it was mine, and that made for some pretty interesting story. But yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry for interrupting.
Eric said, "What was your worst wrestling experience?"
Um, probably the injury to my arm. And the reason it, like I said, is just I really thought it at the time. I thought it broke. I couldn't move it. I've never just laid on the ground during a match, but for the majority of it was a triple threat match, and so for the majority of that match, I just laid on the ground. I did try to come off the top rope, like somebody like I'd lost my mind. My arms just kind of dangling, floating in the air, and while I'm jumping off the top rope. But yeah, that's probably the worst.
Now, I do. Question I do have is, do y'all have a wrestling school anywhere around? Because I talked to Oscar about wanting to become a wrestler, and he said I need to be trained, but I don't have the money to pay for the school, and I'd really love to learn a lot more. Learn a lot. Right now, I guess I'll assign as a manager. I guess for now, I think so. I hope I can see if y'all had a wrestling school or something that I could learn from.
There's you guys are based out of McAllister. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that NCWO they have one. I'm not sure if they've got their ring and stuff set back up, but
Sadly
that would
not.
be the closest one to you. Then, yeah, that gym and stuff like that. Oscar was talking about opening up one. I don't know exactly where that would be at, and I don't know who the trainers would be, but he's got some good guys working with him. If you can ever at all make it to Oklahoma City, it's Unified Wrestling Oklahoma. Uh, One of the trainers is a guy named Drake Gallows. He wrestles, been wrestling, gosh, 20 plus years, phenomenal. Core in Tulsa, if you could make it up there. That's Nathan Estrada and Skylar Slice. They've been all over the world. I mean, they just came back from the UK not very long ago. So there are quite a few schools here in Oklahoma, believe it or not. But yeah, I mean, any of them, you've got pros and cons with any of them. But UWO, Core, NCWO, and like Majestic at some point is supposed to open a school too. So
I know Oscar said something about the day before their big show. I could come over there and the show book can show me a few of the basic stuff and see if there's anybody else who would teach me how to take like chair shots or weapon shots or big hits and stuff. I just need to find the right person that would be able and willing to teach me that stuff.
I mean, I'm sure that there would be. Typically, I mean, it'd just be like trying to find somebody that would do it, because typically you learn that kind of stuff later on, like after the basics of like bumping and stuff like that. But I'm sure that, are you talking about a Sucker Mania? You're going to be at Sucker Mania?
Well, he said he was gonna try to get the referee to bring me and my fiance over there for the show, and
Okay.
since it's a free event, have me learn the day before with the show, but then come back the next day for the event.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I will be there at some point. I don't know that I'll be a part of the show, but I will definitely be there watching. I've got some friends there that are going to compete, so I'll definitely be there watching that. But yeah, I mean, Neshoba would be a good one. And as far as learning, I mean, just, the basics or anything that you would really want to learn, Neshoba, Logan Knight, Dominic Whiteheart. Gosh, I mean, I could just name plenty, but those guys for sure will be able to teach you some good stuff. Montego Sika, if you can ever, he teaches down at it's called Texoma Pro Wrestling. He's one of their instructors, and that guy has been everywhere and wrestled. I mean, he's wrestled on Impact and everywhere else. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely find somebody to teach you guys some stuff or teach you some stuff.
We have 1 minute 33 seconds left, so it's time for the rapid fire answer questions. We got 2 right here. Ren, who said, "What is a move you'd like to learn?" And Eric said, "What is your favorite WWE superstar of all time?"
Okay, a move that I would like to learn would be probably the Hurricanrana. It's something, and the only reason is just because I can't do it. And my favorite WWE superstar of all time, I would have to say, would be the Nature Boy Ric Flair.
All right. Well, guys, this podcast has been the best one that we've had so far. Very great. A lot of great people guest starring, a lot of great people, and an amazing guest star right here, Skidz. Thank you for joining this podcast. And it was an honor having you on the show.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
We hope to have you here again soon. Whenever you'd like to be on another podcast, you just hit us up, and we would love to have you back here.
All right, sounds wonderful, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. We appreciate it.
See you at the next NCWO thing if I'm off work.
See you, man.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Not let me stop the recording. Oh, there it is.